So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new ascendant of Gemini. And we're taking Jupiter through the signs of Gemini. Okay, and this particular position, this is the quintessential position, the type of position that kind of correlates. Okay, and it's kind of charted the way path to the marriage side as well, because Jupiter is in the ascendant in Gemini. But which house does Jupiter rule? The 7th house and the 10th house. But here, Jupiter mainly is going to give the energy of the 7th house, which is Sagittarius. Why? Because Jupiter is a masculine sign. Because Gemini is a masculine sign, it's going to take the energy of its own masculine sign and make it activated. And this is something, like I said, what I will be kind of discussing in the marriage course that I'm currently doing, which you can actually go into the link in the description and join that course, where I'm just going to teach you slowly everything related to marriage. Okay. I've just uploaded Venus in retrogression and combustion, along with all the other planets like 7th Lord Dharakarka as well, when they're combust and retrograde, what takes place. And then later on, we see what this exactly does and means. Okay. So here, Jupiter in the ascendant. See, this is the type of position that you will see that the husband and wife kind of like the same. They're kind of like the same. And usually what happens is you may think, wow, I'm going to find somebody who's exactly the same as me. This is awesome. That's not really the greatest thing to want, because when you get somebody the similar pattern as you, they're not only bringing the positive, they also bring the negative. And when it's like when you see yourself in a mirror, you're like, oh my God, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Yet it is you as well who does those particular things, has those particular habits, and that will annoy you. Because at one point you'll realize that my pattern is exactly like my wife's pattern, or her or his pattern is exactly like my pattern. Because 7th Lord, which represents the spouse, part of the spouse's agenda, spouse's duty, is going into the ascendant. Now, before you meet someone, before you marry someone, you have Jupiter in the ascendant, right? In the sign of Gemini. And after you meet someone, now that someone also has that Jupiter in the sign of Gemini. So regardless of what I say, it is both you and your spouse. So the number one thing you will see, that such a person is always trapped in duality. And what is that duality? Duality will be connected to relationship, business, marriage, and somewhat career. There's this confusion that takes place in the first half of life versus the second half of life. Whatever this person does and studies and follows in the first half of life will not be following and studying and dealing with in the second half of life, because they need change. Gemini is about change. Gemini represents the spring season. So here the coldness of life turns to warmth of life. The other thing for this person and your spouse, communication and dealing with anything connected with communication is becoming the part of who you are as a soul. Such people would do excellent, or would like to be in places like marketing, media, communication, PR. Or if, let's say now we're not looking at other planets, what if this Jupiter is with Mars and Mercury, or Ketu and Mars? Then this person loves to deal with data science, which is like the number one thing right now. It's not even software engineering, it's now data science. You know, it's funny, my wife actually is learning data science and making AI agents. She's like obsessed with it. Like she has created this generational AI agent, or she's working on it. She just got into it. She's a very techie person. Anytime something goes wrong in the home, it's not me. I'm like calling my wife. How do you do this? How do you do that? How do you fix this? How do you turn the water off from this thing? Like, yeah, I am pretty useless in that sense. Okay. Um, but that's what they love to deal with. And especially you will see both you and your spouse throughout life. You guys cry about expenses. Oh my God, look at the expenses. Oh my God, look at this bill going out. That is most of your complaints of life. Okay. Why? Because first of all, whichever sign Jupiter is in is going to blow up that sign and everything around it. Whatever the Gemini ascendant is supposed to represent. So if a Gemini alone, without any planets in it, will cry maybe once a week regarding expenses. Here Jupiter is saying you're going to be crying every day, every hour. And so you're going to have to, that's the part you're going to have to balance out. And how do you balance it out? And the reason is, for Gemini, Taurus is in the 12th house, which is your banking, savings, family, money. And it's in the 12th of loss. Usually you will see that this person, even if they grew up in an affluent family, they just always feel like they're adopted. I just always feel this separativeness from the family, and especially such people, because remember, Jupiter's aspect is on the 9th house. They love to change their lineage identity by either changing their last name or first name or middle name or sometimes religious beliefs or going into complete spiritual beliefs. And I always tell people, I don't care what religion you are. You should never change that, because what happens is then you are making the Pitris, the ancestors, mad, and that can literally, it may not affect you, at least maybe not in this life, but it affects the future generations. Like either the generation ends at one point, or the generation, if let's say there's our boys coming in and they're extending it, it's suffering. Why? Because of the actions you took. See, the actions we take, the first thing we have to understand, how is this going to affect the future descendants, because I'm going to be their ancestors, and how is it going to affect those ancestors through whom I am here today? And we don't realize this game until we have self-realization and we see everything. We see that reality away from this reality. You're like, whoa. And this is why you will see, like as soon as a person's Kundalini is awakened, like true, not the pretentious one, who may just open up to this chakra and they think everything is open up. No, the one who truly open it, they no longer want to touch money, because they realize what is happening. They will stop going into public places or eating outside, because they realize the vibrational energy of people on that food, that spoon, that plate. It becomes a very, very tough life. Let me tell you, as a householder, don't desire to have Kundalini awakening. I've seen too many things with readings and with people. Until your responsibilities are off, or you're not a householder, don't go towards those things. And I don't even know how I got to this particular point. But the other thing, because Jupiter is in the ascendant, okay, on one end, it keeps protecting the marriage, unless it's retrograde. Then we have to see Venus's position from Jupiter. Because right now, if it's retrograde, it's taking its sight off from the 7th house. But if it's direct, it protects the marriage. But what happens with the married life? And this is especially for Gemini. From another ascendant like Leo ascendant, Cancer ascendant, Virgo, or not even Virgo, Libra ascendant, it'll be one-sided thing that a person notices. With this, it's like back and forth. Back and forth, the husband and wife do not want to listen to each other. Why? Because with Jupiter in the ascendant, your intelligence is so high. You feel like whatever I say has to go, because this is the correct way. this is going to be correct. And you might be correct. But guess what's happening now? From the 7th house, Jupiter is in the 7th house from itself. That means the spouse who is lording the sign of Sagittarius goes into 7th from itself. They're going to try to teach you. They're going to be like, listen, this is how this has to be done. And because of the fact Jupiter is in Gemini, both of you have a very strong childlike quality, where you will throw temper tantrums, and this is the position where anger can come alive. Jupiter's anger, have you seen a yogi become angry? When they become angry, they curse you. They curse the next 10 generations from one little sentence. That's ferociousness. That's anger. Okay. So Jupiter being an air sign, and Jupiter is a hot planet. Okay. Yes, Jupiter is representation of Akash, Tattva. Okay. But it is ruling a very strong Agni related sign of Sagittarius, which represents war. War is right. Where's your war happening? Where's the planning of war happening? 7th house. And where does those war begin from? Is from your belief system. It doesn't have to be religious belief, because Sagittarius represents all wars that take place on the name of God and religion, and my belief, my culture versus your culture. So here it's going, it may not, could be for religious beliefs if Rahu goes into the 7th. But right now, what Jupiter is doing is that this is my belief, this is how we should be taking care of the finances. No, this is what's going to be happening. So don't think that this is like, oh, Jupiter in the ascendant blesses the 5th house, blesses the 9th house. Yes, it gives great children. Jupiter will bless with great children if it's alone. Okay? Because if it has conjunction with some other planet, then it will change that. But if it's alone, yes, it's doing that. But you got to remember, each planet is like a coin. So there's a heads and a tail. There's positive and the negative. And you will see this person becomes so strategic. They only like to communicate, make friends, and talk when, first of all, they know that this group of people will listen to me, will treat me like a guru, will treat me like an advisor, and I can get some benefits out of them. Because Jupiter is no longer in its element. Jupiter is not in Sagittarius or Pisces, where it's supposed to be righteous and moral, yet also be a strategist. Now it's in Gemini. It's going to take that sign of Gemini, and it's expanding, and it's like it's drinking that pot of Gemini. You know, like in superhero movies, you see, they drink the potion and then suddenly the bad guy turns into something else, or good guy turns into something else, like maybe X-Men. That's what happens when Jupiter goes into Gemini. And you will see such people, both you and your spouse, display a feminine quality and a masculine quality. Sometimes you become too feminine. Sometimes you suddenly, out of nowhere, you just become masculine. It's like this is why they say Gemini is like two twins sitting inside. Although it's not twins, it's man and woman. So if Jupiter is in the first 15 degrees, you will be more masculine. Second 15 degrees, you will be more feminine. But time to time, that Shiva and Shakti keeps coming out. And if certain planets, certain degrees are there, we've also seen such people may have had some unusual intimate experiences in their life. Not all, but certain degrees and certain pada produces that, which I don't want to discuss here. Okay. But it has to be influenced by some certain other planets. But there's duality. There's duality in this sign. And you will see such people, even though you see Jupiter in the ascendant, They have a very immovable life. Early life is just moving from here to there to there, not having a place of their own. Okay, and usually, because Jupiter is also controlling the 10th house, sits in the ascendant, usually a person loves to engage in independent work, either business, independent contracting, or any job where they are left alone. Like they don't need to bow to everybody or someone every single morning. They do not like that. If you think Sun has an ego, Jupiter has a higher ego, because Jupiter is the one who advises the king. Though imagine if you're the one that advises the king on everything, don't you think you'll have an ego? You'll have pride in you. Yes, you will. And such a Jupiter becomes very good at creating multiple sources of income. Multiple careers will be there at one point. 2, 3, 4 sources of income will be there. And such a person wants some money coming in every day. They like to get some gains every day. And then your spouse will also be like that. So in one way, if you and your spouse do business together, you will create something where somehow every day the customer is coming. So every day the gains are coming. Usually the Jupiter will not be so happy if, let's say, they're doing real estate and then now they have to sell the property, then wait for the property to go to the final process, then the bank gives the money, then in few days or a week you will get the commission check. They want to get every day something. Okay, but remember, brain is working. Brain's working very sharp, very strong, very high. Unless we got some other yogas that are taking place. Like, for example, Jupiter is in the ascendant in Gemini. Mercury goes into the 6th house in Scorpio. Such a person becomes their own worst enemy, and they become so good at being their own worst enemy because the intelligence is working towards destroying oneself. So you see how Jupiter can become negative as well. Okay. But anyway, this was our Jupiter sign of Gemini in the ascendant. And remember, my marriage course is active. You can check out the links below. And if you need any readings, my reports, check out the links here, karasastrology.com. Otherwise, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.